U.S. President Donald Trump wrapping up a rally in Kentucky last hour. He spoke to his supporters directly about the U.S.-led attacks in Iran, and CBC's Chris Reyes is following this for us from New York. What do we hear from Trump?
So, Ian, first thing to say is that President Trump is not sharing new information today, but the tone that he's using is notable, and the audience that he's doing it in front of is somewhat new since these attacks. So let me explain. Trump did give a similar bombastic speech at a Republican event earlier this week, but what's new today is that this was at a rally full of voters, and that matters because this is the first time since the U.S. launched these attacks that the president has had to justify this mission to his supporters in person. Supporters, Ian, who arguably care a lot more about domestic issues than foreign ones. In fact, Trump was there to sell his economic agenda. He visited a manufacturing and packaging center. The question is, did it work? And how will it play outside of this rally? Because it's not unusual that Trump talks a certain way at these rallies, right? He riffs, he tells stories. Sometimes it sounds like a comedy act. But where it felt unnerving today is that he doesn't veer from that tone, even as he talks about this major military mission that has claimed the lives of 7 U.S. soldiers with some 140 others injured, and no clear indication from Trump of when it will end. Add to that this preliminary report that people are talking about in this country today, that a U.S. military investigation has found that it was a U.S. Tomahawk that hit the school in Iran early in this conflict, killing hundreds, including children, due to outdated intelligence. And then add to that the wild swings in energy markets that have unnerved many across this country. So take all of that into consideration, and this Trump style of talking may hit a bit different. Have a listen for yourself what he told the crowd.
I said, the name of what? The name of the attack on Iran, sir. And they gave me like 20 names. And I'm like falling asleep. I didn't like any of them. Then I see Epic Fury. I said, I like that name. I like that name. And my administration, as you know better than anybody, is also working to keep the oil flowing. It's flowing all over. But I got a little upset with my people. I said, why do we have to knock him? And actually, one of my generals said, sir, it's a lot more fun doing it this way.
So, Ian, an event like this is a litmus test of support for this mission. Worth noting that Trump did get the crowd chanting when he said the U.S. is winning in Iran. But there are several polls out now that show most Americans don't agree with this mission. Some prominent Trump supporters have been quite vocal about questioning the motives of this attack and the urgency in which it was launched. And again, with little new information coming out daily on this, watching the public support might be a more insightful indicator of what will happen next, because that could have a real effect on how the president's decision-making goes from here. He has been claiming that he can end this operation anytime he wants.
And Chris, there have been some reports of threats to the U.S. West Coast. Tell us about that.
That's right. So this is a story that developed late in the day when ABC News reported exclusively getting a look at an alert that showed the FBI warned authorities in California about the possibility of an Iran drone attack on the West Coast. So alarming, of course. California Governor Gavin Newsom addressed this in an interview with a local news channel. He said that the state's emergency operations have been activated since the start of these attacks, and that drone issues are always top of mind for the state. But he didn't speak to any one particular credible threat. And then other federal law enforcement officials have since chimed in, telling CBS News and NBC News that nothing actionable or credible in those threats to report at this time.
And one other thing I want to talk to you about, a significant resolution passed at the UN today condemning Iran. Tell us about that.
That's right. So the resolutions here at the Security Council at the UN, it doesn't trigger action, Ian, on the ground, but what it does do is capture a record of support on the global stage. And it's significant that Gulf countries have now rallied to put forward this resolution calling on Iran to stop its attacks on them. And it received overwhelming support from other member states that co-sponsored it, Canada included. It's strongly worded, including a line that deplores Iranian attacks on civilians and civilian targets, including on airports and energy installations. It passed because Russia and China abstained sustained, so no veto from any permanent member countries. It received a vote of yes from the rest of the Council's 13 countries. Have a listen to what U.S. Ambassador Mike Waltz had to say.
I ask you, what country can legitimately say it's better off or more stable because of Iranian influence over the decades? Yemen? No. Lebanon? No. Syria? Absolutely not. Iraq? No. They're all trying to rid themselves of this cancer that has spread over the decades, this disease of instability and chaos. Thankfully, the United States and this administration is taking bold action to do just that.
So, Ian, Iran has countered that narrative and has lobbed its own accusations against the U.S., but this is the first time that we're seeing, through a formal vote here at the United Nations, the isolation of Iran in its own region.
Chris Frias in New York City, thanks.
Thank you.